Welcome to Terry Lawson Photography Conversations. It's January 27th, 2016, and we're in the Observatory on top of the Centennial Centre for Interdisciplinary Sciences at the University of Alberta. Today we're going to talk with Sharon Morsink, a professor at the university. Sharon grew up in Windsor, Ontario. She studied physics at the University of Waterloo and completed her PhD on black holes at the University of Alberta. She also did some postdoctoral research on neutron stars at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. As a professor at the U of A, she teaches courses on physics and astronomy and conducts her own research. She's also very passionate about photography, hiking, cross-country skiing, and spending time in Jasper National Park. So join me as I talk to Sharon, who refers to herself as a professional science geek, amateur photographer, and mountain and nature enthusiast. Welcome to Conversation, Sharon.
Well, thank you.
I got to tell you, where you're letting us do this little conversation this is an amazing place, and you must be thrilled to have the opportunity to come here.
Oh yeah,
on a regular basis.
The observatory here is a wonderful place, and I'm just really happy that it was decided by the university to actually build an observatory into this building. It just made this place great.
Did you have, while they were doing the planning for this, did you have input on what you wanted to have here?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, I had lots of meetings with the architects, and I got to say, I think the architects really found it fun to build the observatory. I think this was way different from what they normally got to do.
Well, you know, as we were talking before, I was a structural engineer, and I know for a fact that every architect I was involved in had zero experience for observatories. So, as you say, it must have been fun for them too to learn all this cool high-tech stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's really important that they gave me input.
Yeah.
And so myself and also Doug Hube, who was a retired professor, we spent a lot of time with the architects going over what should and shouldn't be happening. And
when all is said and done, are you pretty happy with what you got at the end?
Oh yeah, it's very nice. There's a couple little things that I would do differently if I was going to do it again, but you know.
In hindsight, right?
In hindsight, if someone is building their own observatory and asks, what would I change? I could easily do that, but they're minor things.
Yeah. So, I'd be interested in hearing you talk about where that passion for astronomy started. Where did you start, and how did you get here?
It's hard to know exactly where things started. I was always interested in many different aspects of science when I was a kid, and I think my parents were encouraging that way. My parents both have interest in science, and so that came about. I do recall one situation where I sent a letter to NASA asking, saying that I was interested in space or something like that, and they sent me this package full of brochures, and I think that thrill of getting that package with all the stuff about rockets and astronomy was pretty amazing. And kids don't get that today with the internet. Like, it's just not the same thing.
No, exactly.
So that was but of course I had to be interested before that, right? But that certainly helped.
So your parents, they took you out to look at the sky and...
We didn't actually do that much in the way of actual astronomy that way. Like, we went camping and we went to dark sites, and so I saw stars, but I never really learned the names of constellations, and no telescopes or anything when I was a kid. Like, so that side of things wasn't really there. Yeah. It was just an interest in science.
Yeah. So you've been looking through telescopes or electronically at the sky. There must be some event that has totally blown you away.
Oh.
Or maybe there's just, they all are.
Maybe, yeah. There have been a number of things that I would describe as, things that I've looked through the telescope that were pretty neat. Like, for instance, just every time I see Saturn, that's really cool. Like, so you can always see the rings really nicely.
Yeah.
Being able to see the moons of Jupiter and see that they've actually moved around it, and actually be able to have that experience of something else has moons. and being able to see the Great Red Spot. There's a lot of neat things like that. Some of the times that I've looked at the sun have been totally amazing, like when there's a big prominence and you see this big loop of gas on the side. That's just really totally awesome. I've never seen a full solar eclipse, and so I'm looking forward to the summer of 2017.
Okay, that's when it's going to happen.
Yes, August, I believe it's 21st. 2017, there'll be a full solar eclipse. You'll be able to see it in the United States, and it's really important that everybody go there. And also, the observatory here won't be open because we're all going to be...
You're all gone.
Yeah, we're going to be gone. I'll be down in the United States.
Yeah.
So that should be, blow your socks off.
Yeah, and I understand this observatory is open to the public at certain times. You must, how do I put it? You must feel a thrill when someone comes here maybe for the first time and they look through the telescope.
Oh yeah,
and see something that they haven't seen before. It must feel pretty neat when that happens.
Yeah, it's always nice when it happens fairly often that someone comes here and they get that sound or whatever when they're seeing something for the first time, like, oh, that's what the moon looks like, or the sun, or whatever they're looking at.
Yeah.
And that's always fun, and that's kind of what makes it all worthwhile, really.
Yeah. So as far as your involvement here at the university, I guess you must teach a lot of courses.
Sure, I teach as well, and I do research.
And do some research?
Yeah, that's right.
What are you doing research on right now?
My research is on a type of star called a neutron star.
Okay.
And so I do theoretical modeling of neutron stars using computers.
Right.
And these are very small stars that can spin really fast. And so I like the ones that can spin about 600 times a second.
Holy smokes.
So that's why I find them fun, because they just spin so fast.
And I think you did your PhD on black holes.
That's right.
That must have been interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting too. I did that actually
you did here.
Yeah, here at the University of Alberta.
Yeah. Now, just to sort of slide over a little bit, you also have this passion for nature.
Yes,
and
that's
mountains. I guess that again comes from your early years with your parents camping and things like that.
Sure, although with my family, I grew up in Ontario, so we don't have a lot of mountains there, so that was just outdoor stuff, but we did a fair bit of travel. So we traveled to the small mountains in the eastern United States, like the Adirondacks and all that. So I saw some mountains then. When I was 16, we did a trip out west to Edmonton and Jasper, and I saw the Rocky Mountains. I saw the real mountains, which was very much an aha moment. And then when I came out here for grad school, that's when I got exposed to the mountains much more thoroughly and really started to enjoy that. Yeah.
Aside from the beauty, there must be some other things that really draw you. In particular, you like Jasper. Jasper. What makes you want to go there all the time?
Oh. Yeah, that's hard to quantify. I think there's something about being away from the city and being in a place where there aren't really that many people. Like being in the town of Jasper is not so great, but being out, going for a walk where you'd see a few people maybe, but not a lot. And you're sort of away from regular civilization, although it's still a fairly civilized place. You have a chance of seeing some animals, but it just feels good to be out there.
Well, the thing I love is making the drive up to Jasper and getting into the mountains and stopping and getting out of the car and smelling the air.
Oh yeah, the smell is great, and the sounds that you hear. You suddenly hear different sounds.
Yeah, and even on those walks that you may go up high up into the meadows or whatever, and that breeze is blowing. Even though it might be cool, it's still so refreshing. And you stand there and you look around and you can't believe that you have the opportunity to stand in a place like this. Like I think of up in the upper meadows at Edith Cavell, or up at Moline Lake, or anywhere, even Athabasca Falls. It's pretty special. One of the trails that we've liked to go on is the Skyline Trail. I'm sure you've been on that.
Yes, I've been there. That's great.
Yeah, there's been disaster as far as the weather and snow, but there's also been those days when it's this clear Alberta blue sky and you can just see forever. I love that.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, Usually camp, I suppose, when you're there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, we do too.
In the summer, I mean, in the winter, I don't do winter camping. That's just beyond me.
Yeah. No, we like to camp too. My wife and I, we go in our little 2-man tent, and everybody says, "What? You camp in a 2-man tent?" And we say, "Yep." And the areas of Jasper that we see are just such a small part of that national park.
Oh, that's right.
It's amazing. Now, I understand you've also taken up photography recently.
Yeah, that's
now,
right.
Now, that must be an interesting combination with not only your love of nature, but also astronomy, because I assume you're not necessarily taking photographs here with a camera, but you probably get out lots to the night skies to take pictures of the sky.
Yeah, that's right.
So those trails that you're on.
So so I think photography sort of, my interest in photography grew out of my interest in the outdoors and also astronomy, partially because when I got my first digital camera, which was I think in 2007, it was just a cheap point and shoot, and I was going on hikes, taking photos, and I was looking at them, and I thought, gee, I was at this really gorgeous place, and what a blah-looking photo. And, maybe I'm a pretty critical person, but, I sort of saying, these aren't fantastic photos. I've seen really great photos of the mountains. Why are mine different,
Right.
And so I started... After a while, I started thinking, maybe I need to work at the photography side of things a little bit, because I would like to be able to take better photos. And so I just started doing just a photo a day challenge, where I just, take a photo of whatever. I was just in Edmonton, not trying to do pictures of the mountains, and just slowly work on the technique. And so I just started out with the point and shoot until I got to the point where I said, I think I could actually buy myself a nicer camera. And I got, for entry-level DSLR, and then start, after about half a year of doing that, I got that. And then started getting into astronomy, astrophotos a little bit as well. By astrophotos, I mean not through a telescope, which surprisingly, I'm not that interested in taking photos through telescopes of nebulas. Partially because, first of all, it's really difficult.
Yes, it is, yeah.
It's very difficult, and you have to be at a dark site, and it sort of takes away from the enjoyment of just looking at things through the telescope. And also, when you take a photo, it's like, photograph of the Horsehead Nebula always looks the same. It doesn't change at all.
It's not going to be any different today than it was yesterday.
Exactly, but I like photos of the night sky where you're not using a telescope, but you're just on a tripod and you're getting the scenery in there. And because the sky always looks somewhat different, you can see some constellations, but you have different foregrounds. Maybe you get aurora, and it can be a lot more interesting, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what happens when you don't actually stop. You're into taking the picture, and you're doing all the stuff with your camera and getting everything all set up, and sometimes you just don't stop to actually stand back and just appreciate where you are, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've taken the effort to get to a place that the sky is dark for your photos of the sky, you've obviously got to a place that's pretty spectacular, and you have to enjoy that. And
it's really important to step back and say, I'm also just enjoying the experience, not just taking photos of it.
And sometimes that happens when you're taking the pictures of the borealis. You're looking through the lens of your camera all the time, and you're not actually stopping and looking at, wow, this is amazing.
That's where it's really good to have your camera set up on a tripod, set it up at the beginning of the night, and have it set on have it just so that it's taking a photo every once a minute or something like that, or have it doing something automatic once you have it set up as you like. And then you can just sit back and enjoy things. And I did that recently for the Perseids this August, where just set up the camera so it was going all night, and then we all just sort of laid back in our lawn chairs, enjoyed the Perseids, and then afterwards, the next day I just looked to see what was on the camera. It was like, got some interesting things.
No, that's great, and that's what I like to do too. It's just to take time and enjoy where you are. Have you had a chance to yet, with your limited experience so far with photography, where you found yourself in some place that you never thought you would ever be. That was sort of a culmination of your love of nature, and here I am.
Well, getting to visit. Well, I guess I've been to Arizona as one of the nice perks of my job is something called a sabbatical, where I got to go to Arizona for close to a year. Actually, only for the winter. I didn't stay there for the summer because everyone told me how hot it would be. And being able to take photos of the night sky, both just from camping in Arizona and also at some of the observatories, was really, really wonderful. And it was nice that when I did go down there, it also, got my skill set with photography up to a point where I could actually take some decent pictures, And so it seems kind of rewarding when I can sort of say, hey, I can now go to a nice spot, and I'm pretty sure that if the conditions are reasonable, I'll be able to get a good photo out of it,
Yeah. It takes a lot of work, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's
a lot of practice.
Lot of practice, and I think that's one of those things when people say, "Oh yeah, you're taking nice photos." It's like, well, actually, there's a lot of practice that goes into this, and anyone can do it if you practice.
Well, and it's like that in anything that involves art. It takes a lot of work, and sometimes people don't appreciate that.
Oh, for sure.
You just don't go out and click the shutter. There's a lot of effort, not only getting to those places where you have a nice sky, just the effort to get there, number one, and then all of the things that you've learned, how to do the proper exposure and how long it should be, as far as the shutter and all of those things. It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, it's nice that the technical side of things is basically taken care of. Like I know how to do exposure and all that sort of stuff now, but now it's always a matter of, can I do a good composition?
It's all in your
imagination. And that's the hard part.
Yeah, and it's always fun. I like going out with other photographers because you can be standing in the same spot.
Yeah, take
totally different
photos.
Everybody gets a different photograph.
Yeah.
And that's kind of exciting to see that happen. And it sort of gets your mind working a little bit too for next time you're taking a photograph. I'll think about that next time, that sort of thing. Well, Sharon, this has been fun. I'm glad we had a chance to sit down for a few minutes and talk. And so good luck with your photography, and keep getting out to those beautiful places. And as I say, I'm going to make sure I come down here one of these nights on a nice night and get a chance to look through those telescopes.
This is a good time of year, by the way.
Yeah.
Because being winter, we've got the Orion Nebula, which often looks very good through the telescope. So I definitely encourage you to try to come sometime in the next couple weeks.
It's up here right now too. Yeah,
definitely.
So that's perfect. Okay, I'm in.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you so much.
You have been listening to Terry Lawson Photography Conversations. Conversations with those involved in the art scene.